All right, everyone. Welcome back. Tuesday morning. Glad to see everyone. Hope the week is going well. People are rocking and rolling. Want to stay on track with our scary theme. So if you have any scary questions or not scary questions, that's okay. Any questions you may have, please bring them to the table. Until we get questions, I want to talk through the fear that we bring as agile coaches. We are the bringers of change. We are the ones who are driving people to operate differently than they've chosen to work before. So just be aware that you are that grim reaper of change. And not everybody welcomes the change, but it is our job as agile coaches to help people through that transition. So just be aware that you have that persona, that aura about you in this October season, that we are the scary people, asking people to be more transparent, to provide real, true updates on where we are on a regular, consistent basis. Those are things that in the waterfall world, maybe you didn't have to do for some number of months, and you could clean up your little messes along the way and nobody knew. But now, in this new open, transparent world, you're out there in the open. And for many people, that's scary. That's hard. So know that while you 100% believe in it and you are doing all the right things for all the right reasons, your job as an agile coach is to educate people along the way, inform them that yes, it's a little bit scary to be putting yourself out there, but in the long run, it's best for you, it's best for the organization, it's best for the product. So I just want to make sure that we're all aware that unfortunately we are the scary people. So just a heads up there. Okay, so Scrum Sarge jumping right in on it. Thank you, sir. Getting ready to go into my SPC class today, and I'm a huge skeptic. So I will tell you a story. So I did the same thing with a SAFe class that I attended. So if you've listened to the Metacast, if you listen to, probably 4 or 5 years ago, Bob, my co-host, went to SAFe training. And he came back just hair on fire, upset, angry. We had a podcast where I've never seen or heard him go that far. And then I joined a company later that had decided that they were going SAFe. So I ended up going to SAFe training. And I went into it the exact same way that you are with your SPC training, Sarge. So I get it, because my mentor, my guide, the person that taught me many of the things that I believe in and use on a daily basis, said the SAFe thing isn't exactly all it's cracked up to be. So he put a lot of questions in my brain. So the only thing I could do, Sarge, is do exactly what you're saying. So you have it right. You don't have to force yourself to go into it with an open mind. Think about those people that you coach. Think about the teams that you coach, like I just talked about, that are afraid of that change, that don't want to go to Agile, that have seen, read, heard some negative story about it. You have to do the hard, dirty work of getting them to just try it and to give it a shot. So you've got to do the same thing that you ask your teams to do in that same training. I did the best I could in that training, and I was able to pull out nuggets of things that I brought with me. So while I'm not a huge proponent of SAFe in whole, there are parts of SAFe that I think add tremendous amount of value, and I've incorporated into the processes that I've used with my teams. So I am 100% sure that if you go into it with open mind, you'll find bits and pieces that you can pull out of that and say, hey, this applies to me. I buy into this. This makes sense. I think I'm going to incorporate this into the way I coach, the way I lead, the way I manage, the way I do whatever, the way I operate. So you've got the right mindset. It's the same thing like I talked about with your teams that you're coaching or the people you are mentoring that are afraid of the change that's coming at them. You have to do the same thing. So now you have to set that good example. So I know you will do fantastic, Sarge. So go get them. All right. So quick break here. If you're new to the stream, thanks for coming in. I see we've got a handful of people on. As you can see at the top, I'm trying to get 100 new followers. So if you can hit that follow button at the top, it may be a heart. It depends on the app or browser that you're in. So if you could hit that heart, that would be fantastic. That's my feedback on, are we gaining steam? Are we getting traction? I'm very excited and happy with the streams as they've gone because the chat has been fantastic. Everybody's been helping each other, and that's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want this to be a thing where I have all the answers, because I am 100% sure that I don't have all the answers, but I do know that we as a collective group can help each other out, and that's one of the big things and why I believe in Twitch. I think the community that is built around a Twitch channel is fantastic, and how those groups of people come together around a common topic and help each other out. So I ask you guys to keep being awesome in the stream because you've been fantastic. So if you have any more questions, again, put them in there on the right side, or if you're on your phone, it's probably below the video. Just fire away. We will answer anything and everything. Cool. All right. Quick drink. So for those of you that have been on previous streams, last Thursday, I think it was, I got confused with Fire Sue and Lori Blue. Lori Blue always sends me whispers in Twitch after she watches them a day or so later because she can't make it. And she informed me that Lori Blue is because she's a Michigan fan. And that blue represents Big Blue of Michigan. So as a person that has no love lost for Ohio State, that makes me happy. So Lori, thank you for not being a Buckeye fan, because I am not. It's a long, ridiculous story about why I don't like them. It's silly, but it is what it is. All right, so let's see what Jamie's bringing to the table. Jamie in the home of Sir Walter Raleigh. Welcome from across the pond. All right, I'm just reading this real quick. So Jamie's wondering that conflict that is there. There is good conflict and bad conflict. Is there a point where the Scrum Master should stop trying to manage that conflict and refer the matter to line managers or HR department? So one thing that I've encouraged, if you're in the good, healthy organization that has both Scrum Masters and direct report managers, I've seen tremendous success when Scrum Masters and managers work hand in hand. So don't, as the Scrum Master, go off and try and solve things by yourself. Things I've seen work really well is when there's a problem like that, the Scrum Master and manager sit down and figure out the best way to attack the problem together. That's the way that we've always done it. So we've had these situations in the past, and I've always grabbed those two roles and said, okay, let's figure this out. How are we going to help make this happen? And the evolution of help, as I see it, is I want the team to try and solve the problems first. Number one, they have to be aware of it. They have to be aware that you're asking them to solve those problems. So that's where that Scrum Master or manager come in. And then what I ask those two to do is first help educate those team members on the situation and help coach them along the way of how they can solve it themselves, which is hard, but ultimately that's what I believe works best. Then at that point, the Scrum Master and manager put together a plan of, okay, how are we going to attack this directly? One of the ways I think works really well is, as a Scrum Master, you can have more difficult conversations with a team member because you're not their direct manager, so that fear isn't there. We've talked about a lot of scary and fearful things. There's nothing worse than having your boss come and tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, can we talk for a minute? And as a boss, I've tried a million different ways to find a non-threatening way to do that. But every time I say, hey, so-and-so, can we chat? It's like everybody instantly, their face goes a little bit pale. And they're like, oh no, what did I do? And there's a bit of panic. So I've yet to find a way to start a private conversation with somebody as their boss and not have it feel threatening. But a Scrum Master can do that. A Scrum Master can say, hey, let's chat, or they can hang out after a meeting or ceremony and just start asking questions about the situation, about the feelings, about things that are going on, and you'll find that that starts a healthier dialogue than that uncomfortable, scary discussion when you're sitting across from the table from your boss and that boss is asking questions. And as non-threatening as your boss is trying to be, just the weight of the role and the position really does factor in. So you have to be aware of that. So that's usually how I start, is I have the Scrum Master be that canary in the coal mine and go have those first discussions and figure things out, and then bring that information back to the manager and say, okay, here's where we're at. I think we're okay. I don't think you need to swing in and help. Or, holy cow, that conversation went way worse than I thought. So I'm going to need your help. Like, we're going to have to, like, there have been times that they've come to me and said, okay, Josh, so here's what's going on. We're not sure what to do. So then we work through, the three of us, to sit down and figure out a plan of attack of how we're going to do it. And you know, it's just like anything else. You map out a best case scenario, worst case scenario, and plan out what do we do if things don't go well. What's our plan then? So I find that a good, healthy organization has Scrum Masters, Agile coaches, and managers working together to attack those difficult, messy problems of teams trying to figure out how to be teams. Because that's really what's happening there, is you've probably asked the team to have some good bit of conflict. You've encouraged it. You've celebrated it when people challenge each other in a healthy way, but people are still learning. So they're trying to figure out what that healthy conflict looks like and what it doesn't look like. So again, that's where education comes in, and you've got to do your job. So I've had very few instances where it made it all the way to HR department. That only ever came up when there was a true HR issue where someone felt threatened or anything like that. Josh typed another question, another long one. Yeah, break it up into pieces, Josh, and then we'll pull it apart. So Jamie, I hope that helped. If you are the Scrum Master, pair with your peer manager for those people on that team. That's been the only way I've seen that work very well. Don't go off on your own. People are challenging. So get some help. But again, you do have that non-threatening role if you are that Scrum Master, right? So you can likely have that first conversation. Asking for a friend. Okay, good. Well, there you go. You can send the friend the link. I'm starting to put these out on YouTube now, so we do have a YouTube channel that I'm going to get on the link down below. We're going to get that added. So I'm trying to push all of this content over to YouTube, because until I get to, I think it's 50 followers. At 50 followers, there's another tier within Twitch where your videos are retained longer. And then there's another tier where videos are retained essentially for as long as you want. So I'm not there yet. We are well on the way. So as you see, we have 36 followers. So if we get 14 more, I think we get to the point where a lot of it is retained here on Twitch, but I'll still start putting stuff out on YouTube because not everybody's Twitch savvy yet. So we're getting there one step at a time, and it couldn't happen without all of you. So thank you very much. Okay, here we go. Digging into Josh. All right, give me a second to read. I'm sure everybody else is catching up on the reading as well. I got you, Josh. I've been there. So one of the things that I firmly believe in is that the product owner role, classically defined, is impossible for one person to do. In fact, Bob and I did a series of episodes on product owners and what Bob calls the product owner quadrants. And he breaks it down into 4 pieces of responsibility that the product owner role has. So the things that I always do whenever I'm talking about product owner role, I seldom talk about product owner as a person. I talk about product owner as a role because it is so difficult. It is so broad. It is so massive that one person, to do it completely right, can't do it all themselves. So often what happens, and this has happened in the past at companies I've worked at, is that the product owner, when paired with a product manager, the product owner person, not the role, is allowed to focus internally mostly. So if you think about the true product owner role, you're the face of the business, you're the face of the customer, you're the interface between the team and the rest of the business, and you're the interface between the team, the product, and the customer. That's a lot going on. If you've got a high-powered team that's cranking out features and product and bug fixes all the time, your responsibility to have that backlog healthy and ready is going to consume 100% of your time. So that's what I've seen in the past, is that you build high-powered teams, and those product owners are working their tail off just to have the backlog in a healthy state to support that team that's there. What often falls to the wayside is that external research and discovery about what the product should be doing, understanding the market, understanding competitors, everything that's going on out there. That's where product managers come in, and they are enabled and empowered to focus more externally around understanding the voice of the market, the voice of the customer, where should we be going. All that is classically defined as part of the product owner role. But again, I believe it's virtually impossible for one human to do all at once. So many teams, again, places I've been, have started to separate that out. As far as number of projects, I've tried to never focus on number of projects. What I always look at is, in companies I've been a part of, we found that there's a certain amount of revenue that a product manager can be responsible for. Say it's $25 million in annual revenue. There might be one product manager that's eaten up all by one project. So they focus on that because it is such a beast. While another product manager may have a dozen or so smaller ones that don't have the same requirements around feedback loops and staying in touch, and number of customers, everything that goes along with that. So that's the metric that I've used to understand when a product manager becomes overloaded, as you start to look at the amount of revenue associated with the products that they're responsible for. Because again, there are going to be some teeny tiny ones that maybe there's just not much more you need to do because it's a utility or it's an integration or it's something like that that's just built and ready to rock and roll, and away we go. And now there's going to be some larger ones that are just bigger and more painful, that requires a whole person to dedicate all of their job to it. So I do encourage you, Josh, on our Metacast. Bob has a real passion for this. He's got some great books out there. There's a lot on our website. You should be able to filter out by product owner and see all of our episodes around product owner. So I think it might be helpful for you to listen to the product owner quadrants discussion that Bob and I had. That was probably 5 years ago or so. So we may need to update that or something, but it was a good insight into what that product owner role could be in a classic sense. And it's, when Bob talked me through that, because I'd only ever seen the product owner roles I've been a part of. And then Bob kind of opened this door to me and said, that's what a product owner looks like. And I was like, holy crap, how can one person do that? So that's when he trained me into talking about it as a role instead of a person, because it's just such a challenge. Yes, Jamie, that's a very good qualification. I may have intermixed products and projects in there. So, Jamie corrected me again. First pronouncing the own name of my city wrong. Now keeping me straight on product versus project. So, yes, Jamie, you're absolutely correct. So, if I said project in there, Josh and everyone else that's listening, I'm sorry, I meant product. They are a product owner, not a, or product manager, not a project manager. I'll get my words straight eventually. Not that I do things where I'm talking in front of a microphone all the time and putting my foot in my mouth, but that's what I do. Yeah, so Josh, oh, well, we're all Joshes. We all make mistakes. I'm sure I mix project and product wrong. So that is a common misbehavior that I've seen with product managers, is a unwillingness to let go and to let the product owners do their thing and run and deliver the product. Because in reality, what happens when those product managers start operating like a project manager, they're not doing the things they should be doing. They should be focused externally on customers, competitors, new customers, the market, everything that's out there. So they start looking internally instead of trusting the product owners and the teams and letting them do their job. Then they lose sight of what they should be doing, and then everything starts to fall apart. That's one of the things that sports taught me, is that truly effective teams exist when everybody does their job and everybody trusts everybody else to do their job. So for instance, in football, the sport I played, American football, for those of you over in Europe, the position I played required many of us to work in unison. And if I was worried about the person next to me not doing their job effectively, and I tried to compensate for that and step in and help them, the likelihood of me not doing my job and getting my block just went up. So that was one thing that we had to learn, was we all had to work in unison and trust each other and work together and not try and compensate for other people along that line, because if we did, then we lowered our capability of delivering on our own. So that's an unfortunate common situation that I see many product managers get into, and it's likely because they came from a product owner role where they were that close and they were able to understand and see and influence things that were going on. But now they've taken that step away and it's uncomfortable for them. So that's, again, education that we need to do, is help them understand their role, their focus, where they need to be, and let the teams do their thing. And it's amazing when you actually let teams do their thing, the magic that does happen in the end. Tasty Cupcakes guy? How do I not know this person? I clearly need to go read some of his work. Jeez. Welcome, Fire Sue. Good to have you back. Don't know if you've been lurking there in the chat for a while, but happy to have you. So again, for anybody that's new, if you haven't already, please hit that follow button. For those of you that have, thank you very much. Again, there is some incentive for us to get to 50 followers. We'll be able to retain clips and videos longer here on Twitch. So if you miss, you can go back and see those. Like I said, once we get to 50, that opens up another tier of storage that I can have with all of our clips and videos. So that would be cool. Oh, there you go. tastycupcakes.org. Yeah, I'm gonna go there right now. Let's all click together. All right, so who is a little creeped out by that clown? Like, I don't have like a clown fear, but that clown's a little creepy to me. Maybe I do have a clown fear, and I don't know. Maybe I just discovered it. Cool. I will check that out. So thank you, Sue, for bringing that up. So there you go. New Agile games for everybody to try out. Just scroll past the clown. It gets better. Less threatening. I think we just discovered that I have a clown fear. I didn't know it. So has anybody used any of these? Sue, it sounds like you may have, given how quickly you pointed it out. So if there's any in particular that you've used, share with everybody. I've got a handful of folks that I know that rely pretty heavily on games to make that happen. All right, so I'm not the only one. Okay, good. I don't know what it is. Maybe if he wasn't winking, I wouldn't be creeped out. I don't know if it's a clown or the wink or what's going on. But that one, that one's got me there. So, Charles Rodriguez has used some of these games. I need to get him on here. I am planning a bit of a roadshow for us. So we did one of these at Transloc here in Raleigh, and I'm working with some of the Agile coaches over at Pendo here in downtown Raleigh to go have one of these streams there. I think they just made it onto a list where they're projected to be one of the next $1 billion companies. So that's pretty cool. All right, Sue, we'll see you. Take care. Have a good stand-up. Keep changing minds and making life better. Okay. Sorry, I was distracted by the clown. I am closing the clown tab. Yeah, that Josh, what you'll find is that point where a company brings in product management. That's one of those growth points where they've done well enough that it makes sense to, now we need somebody to focus more externally. So they bring in a product manager, and that disrupts a lot of things. That disrupts ownership that people have, that disrupts maybe a career path people thought they were on. It disrupts the flow of work. It disrupts many things. So what you're seeing is common. It's normal. When you inject a new role like that, everybody's got to figure it out and readjust and relearn and recalibrate how their roles operate now and where they go for information, where they go to give information. So understand it's a normal, healthy thing, and that usually happens when a company's growing. So it's a good thing, but it's one of those growing pains that comes up as a company. It's like those teen years. You get to the point where you're a startup and you're getting along fine with just product owners, and you're there, you're growing fast, everything's going well, and then you're growing so fast, and you've got so many products that everybody's struggling to keep up. So now you bring somebody in to help corral that. Cool. It doesn't mean it magically happens overnight. The whole system of your company has to recalibrate. And that's never simple. It's never smooth. But we as Agile coaches can help that along. It is our responsibility to help that along. So just, Josh, I wanted you to not feel like you were out on an island. That's a normal thing. Companies I've been at have gone through that. It's just, that's part of growing. Cool. That is fantastic to hear. So retrospectives are just one of those things that you've got to keep spicing them up. You've got to keep the team focused. You got to keep the team, not let them get in a rut. So anything and everything you can do to keep driving that healthy discussion is fantastic. Any tips or tricks or anything like that, like what Jamie's talking about, that again drives things, that's the thing. And one of the things that you often have to do is get people over fear. You know, while this whole theme of the month has been fear and scary items and everything that goes along with that, that's another thing, that retrospectives can be scary, especially when people bring in delicate subjects to the table. You've got to empower them, and almost what those different tools and games do is it takes the focus off of the people and puts it on the activity, so people aren't feeling attacked, because it's not me telling somebody, hey, I didn't think this was good. It's me just putting this out here in a game, and now it's less threatening. So that's one of those things why those are always good, especially as you're growing your team into becoming more and more mature and more gaining comfort and confidence and safety with all of their discussions. Okay, so let's talk about Slack channels. Actually, let me pull up my Slack. So I am in Agile Dojo, which is one that is local to us here in Raleigh/Raleigh. I don't know if it's expanding out. I'm happy to invite you to that. I just don't know. I wouldn't want you to feel left out, but I think most of the people here are local to this area. Yeah, the one Josh is talking about, Hands-on Agile, I got added to that via a friend a couple weeks ago, and it's pretty good. And I tell you what, what surprised me was I went in and browsed the channels and just was a bit overwhelmed by everything that's going on out there. And I haven't jumped into any more that are out there. As far as the channels within the Hands-on Agile, there's just a ton. It looks like there's some local ones, also some other topic-specific things that are out there. So I haven't jumped into any of those other rooms within that Hands-on Agile. But if you would be interested, Agile Dojo, let me find the, yeah, here. Oh boy, new keyboard. Oh man. So my son just turned 9, and for his birthday, he wanted a gaming keyboard that lights up and does all this fancy stuff, which is cool, but it's essentially a Windows keyboard, and I'm on a Mac, so I gotta refigure out copy and paste. So this is the Agile Dojo that I mentioned that I'm in, that I think is relatively Research Triangle Park focused. As far as if you can't join that, let me know and I'll send you an invite, because it looks like I can do that. So there's some good discussion in there. Eric Hannon, who was on one of these streams a while back, he seems to, I don't know if he started it, but he's the shepherd. You know, he's the good shepherd that comes in and keeps and drives the conversation going, and he does a really good job with that. So if you need help getting in there, you do decide you want to go in there, or if the Hands-on Agile is keeping you busy, I can get you in there as well. It's part of the Agile Leadership Network, I think. So I know there's a lot going on. I'm trying to corral and understand where I should be putting my eyeballs and eardrums to make sure I'm in all the right places to see and learn and hear all the good stuff. Oh, daggone, man, look at this guy. Gosh. I tell you what, Josh, you're saving the day here. I think that's it. I feel like there should be a little bit more info in that page so you know what you're signing up for. I know, man. I tell you what, so I'm trying to add. There's some things in Twitch that's kind of cool around community that lets me add rewards and things like that. So if you scroll down, you see a leaderboard. And actually, Josh's Agile is racking up the points today. I think points can be gifted, and there's like treasure chest that comes up and things like that. So I've got it turned on because you can see the leaderboard, but I'm not sure how to. I'm still learning how to give and dish out points and things like that, because you would be crushing it today. Yeah. So I've like I said, I'm learning the streaming stuff. Some of my first streams just were funny as I look back. Just as I look back at some of our first podcast episodes, they were terrible. But such is life. So, what other scary things do people have going on that they'd like a little bit of help with? I've got plenty more if we need to move on to something else here for the last 20 minutes or so. I am actually, here's a question for those of you that are out there. Bob and I are recording a podcast episode this afternoon. So if there's any topics you'd like us to dig into that you feel are meaty enough, let me know, and we can we're going to record that this afternoon. I don't know if I'll get it out this week or if it'll be out next week, but now's your chance to get something on the table. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't even have to be something that you're struggling with. If you just want something covered or anything like that, we'd be happy to do that. It's amazing how Bob and I always go into those recording sessions and decide last minute what we're going to talk about, and then we end up talking about it for like 45 minutes, and we have to stop ourselves. We'll mostly have to stop Bob, because Bob likes to talk. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the original topic I started the stream with, around understanding that whether you want it to or not, and I am 100% sure that everybody here doesn't want to be perceived as the bad guy that's bringing and driving that change. But know that you are, just like we talked about the manager knowing and understanding that conversation that they're having with one of their employees carries a weight and a little bit of fear for that employee. Just, it's human nature. I don't know why, but it is. You have the same thing. You are driving this change. You are the face of the change, which is good and exciting and fun, but also can create fear and anxiety in people that haven't changed, don't want to change, or even yet maybe don't think they should change. That's where the real fun comes in. Oh man, Thanksgiving. That's a good one, Sarge. I feel like I need to hold on to that for a little bit. Actually, I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to write that down and build out a plan for some topics for us to discuss in November. I kind of like this theme. It helps me as I prepare for these moments, have a plan around things to talk about, things to try and add value for folks. So thank you for that, Sarge. Holy cow, Sarge is going deep. Neuroscience and the SCARF acronym. All right, who knows what in the world that means? Ways that you initiate threat responses. You sound like really very military. That second sentence. The way you initiate threat responses in the brain. I'm going to go look up SCARF. Who knows SCARF? I'm sure Sarge does. Status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. Wow. Okay, man. All this studying. I'm going home with studying today. You guys are on a roll. On a roll. See, this is where I got to be able to. I need to give those things. All right, I'm going to figure that out. That's my mission for Thursday, is to be able to dish out some of these points along the way, because you guys are just crushing it. So keep on crushing. Man, you guys are on fire. Okay, so let's go back to that fear that I mentioned, and that fear that people are wrestling with. Yeah, it looked kind of heavy, Sarge, when I went and looked at the definition. So definitely need to understand that, because again, that's one of those things I always wrestled with, and as I mentioned, I always tried to figure out how I could initiate that conversation with somebody and not have it appear like it was a bad thing, because everybody would always go to, oh no, what's Josh like? What's going on? It's like, no, I just want to talk about something, and it's positive and it's good. But I ended up just like wrapping all these disclaimers around it when I would say, hey, let's chat. So well, Jamie, you were further along than me, I can tell you that. Well, cool. Well, hell, fellas, if there's nothing else, anybody has anything for us to dig into, I'm going to probably shut the stream down for today. Oh, wait. Jamie with the last minute. So, Jamie, the approach that I take on one-on-ones is I start pretty frequent. But I also, when I initiate them, I say, I don't know if this frequency is the right frequency, but we're going to start weekly or whatever you feel is appropriate. Actually, I would start something that feels a little too frequent. And then as you go, and if you have these regular conversations and you feel and discover you're going into them and there's not a lot to discuss, then that's when you start slowing them down. So I always try and start a little bit aggressive, a little bit uncomfortable. We're going to meet and talk more often, especially when things are new, right? So it's that things that I do when I spin up a new team or coaching a new team is our sprints are 1 week instead of 2 weeks, because you work through the hard parts of the transitions. You work through those that much more often, twice as often. Also, planning a 1 week sprint isn't as hard or scary as planning a 2 week sprint. So you're a little bit more confident. And hey, what? If you miss, okay, you miss on a couple of days instead of maybe a whole week or something like that. So I, again, in those situations, I start more frequent, once a week. If you can do it, it depends on how big the team is. Maybe you can't do that. Or maybe once every 2 weeks. And be aggressive with it. And then you'll find that you'll get to a point with each person. And each person might not be the same. You might have to meet with one person once a week, and maybe you only meet with another person once a month or once every 3 weeks. You're going to find the right cadence for each person. But the indicator that I use is that when we go into one of those one-on-one meetings and we find that there's really not that much to discuss because not that much has changed or evolved since we last chatted, that's when I start to spread them back out. So start aggressive, start very frequent, and then back off. There'll be some people you back off almost instantly. And then there'll be some that maybe 6 months later you start to, okay, so we've worked through the hard, messy stuff. Now let's just kind of keep the pace going. It's very similar to standing up a new backlog. You have to be hyper aggressive with those backlog refinement meetings and story writing meetings to get it to a healthy state. Then once you get it to that healthy state, then you can slow down and get into a regular cadence. So the same thing exists when you're working and coaching with people. Be aggressive early and then scale back as necessary. Oh, fantastic question, Josh. So Kazi, Kazi came up. I had an idea for a startup and I was trying to find something and trying to find a good name for it. I wanted a nice short name. And I was meeting with Todd Olson, who's the CEO and founder of Pendo, who I mentioned earlier. And I asked him, how did he land on Pendo? Like, why did you pick Pendo as a name for your company? And he said that he started going on Google Translate and just looking at words that he thought applied to what he wanted to do with his company and looked at translations across different languages and found Pendo in another language means value or love, and that fit perfectly with what he was trying to do because he's a product person building products for product people, trying to bring value. So I started doing the same, and I was doing research, and it turns out that Kazi is Swahili for work. So ultimately, what I want to do with my company is help people make work better. So Kazi was super short, super easy. The domain was available. The opportunity to get a 4-letter domain, I thought never would happen. So that's the background of Kazi. It is Swahili for work. And then I've evolved that into this company that I've started around coaching. And again, everything I'm doing is trying to just help people make their work lives a little bit better. So that's where Kazi came from. And my good friend Bob just always gives me crap about it. He always mispronounces it, and he has a good old time with it. And I'm going to go subject myself to that here in about an hour. So cool. All right, folks, thank you for tuning in. As I said, my goal for Thursday is we're going to have some of those interactivity options built in a little bit more to our stream, because you guys, just the value that you are providing in the chat is fantastic. Sarge, I don't know any other Swahili culture yet, so maybe I should study up more. I just Google Translate helped me there, so maybe I should do a little bit more studying since I'm using their language as the name for my company. So I'll add that onto my long list of things to do, is to study some Swahili culture. I'm sure there's some pretty cool stuff out there that I would be able to adopt. So cool. Thanks again, everyone, for coming. If you can, again, please do share this out. Please let people know that this is here. My goal with this, and Lion King things, that's a good idea. My goal with this is to just help as many people as possible, and getting the word out is something that you guys can help me do. And again, as I mentioned, there are tiers in Twitch, and once we get to 50 followers, retention of videos lasts longer. There's some other things that we can do that are out there that are kind of cool and exciting, but we got to get over that hump. So luckily, I've been down this path with our podcast, where the first 3 years, I'm pretty sure there were few people listening to that than there are this stream. So I am super thankful for everybody that's here on Tuesdays and Thursdays and taking part of this. You guys have encouraged me and emboldened me to keep doing this, and it's always exciting, and I look forward to doing this. So thank you very much, and we will see you on Thursday. Take care, everyone.